And I have the pleasure to invite a speaker that I have been looking forward to actually getting to see speak in person for a while. They are an amazing developer who actually come from Canada, and they love running and eating Caribbean food. But for me personally, every time I hear their name, I have a big smile on their face because they remind me of my favorite striker from my football club, which is Arsenal. And just like the Thierry Henri slashed through defenses and scored goals, we have Henri on here to talk to us about slashing performance bottlenecks and poor user experience. Can you give it up for the developer community lead of Catchpoint Systems, Henri?
One, two. Oh, it's working already. All right. Okay. Let me turn this on. Awesome. Can everyone see my slides deck? Yeah. All right. Yeah, it's Friday the 13th, so I thought I should be on brand and have a picture of my ex-girlfriend. She was not the nicest, as you could tell. Anyhow, for the 5 of you who follow me online on Twitter, I like to start my day by saying good morning, Dom. Yeah. And since I'm in Brussels, I can say bonjour, Dom. Ça m'arrive pas trop souvent de parler français, alors pourquoi pas? All right. Or I could also say goedemorgen, Dom. Did I say that right? Okay. Well. No applause, it's all good. I'm glad to be in Brussels. It's my first time here, so I'm super excited. But at work, we used to call Brussels GCE Europe West 1B. We felt that was kind of appropriate for those who understand that one. And the one thing I like to do every time I'm in a city, I like to go for a run, which I did this morning at about 6 a.m., so that was good. I also had some Belgian chocolate. I had to do that on the very first day, so that was actually perfect. But hopefully some of you can help me out because I'm actually also trying to meet Cynthia Bolingo, national champion 400 meter. You know, I really, really want to meet her, but she doesn't know I exist. It's all good. But I also want to meet Nafi Thiam, who's also a champion heptathlete. You know, I've watched her several times on TV and stuff, so very impressive. But she's actually going to come back in my talk a little later, so, you know, we'll discuss that. But we're not here to talk about Nafi Thiam, Bolingo, or anything else. We're here to talk about React. And React is 10 years old. And do you remember what you were doing 10 years ago? Anyone? You may have been lining up for the iPhone 5S. That came out 10 years ago. Or some of you may have been lining up for the Moto X. I've never used one, but I'll just assume that came out in 2013. But since that was 2013, that's cool. But I really want to talk about what happened November 2016. Anyone have any idea what that might have been? We'll cut straight to the chase. In 2016, and fall of 2016 was very, I believe, consequential to the web. You guys can hear me correctly, right? Yeah, cool. Consequential to the web because that's the first time that the web was being accessed more on mobile than on desktop for the first time in history. So it's kind of like a 50% plus one type thing, right? But you have to realize that this is a moment in time that would never turn back. And we've only just gone up from there. So that's going to be a bit of the theme, as we like to say, the refrain in today's talk. So I want to welcome everyone to my presentation, which I'm calling Slashing Performance Bottlenecks and Poor User Experience. Knife, because it's Friday the 13th. And we're going to take a look at the modern web, because that's what we're working in right now, and its performance. My name is Henri. I go by Henri Helvetica on the social sphere, so Twitter, Mastodon, Blue Sky, what's another one? LinkedIn, and whatever else is out there. I'm no longer at Catchpoint, just left recently to pursue bigger things. So my next venture is the one right below that, if you know Rot 47. So if you can figure that out, you let me know. I'm from the greatest city on the planet, which is Toronto, Canada. If you ever visit, let me know. If you do, you'll have a good time because the currency exchange is very favorable to the euro. And as mentioned, I'm a bit of a runner, so I like to share my journeys running with hashtag #DevsWhoRun. Any runners here? Any distance runners? Yes, no? Too many pastries? Is that it? And I also started this podcast called The Weekend Podcast. It's not about the front end. It's not about the back end. It's about the weekend. Come ask me about that afterwards. I'll be more than happy to talk about it. All right, so let's get going. We're going to talk about user experience today. And user experience is obviously kind of a large umbrella, but really we're going to talk about performance, which is within that user experience conversation. Because performance is important, but since we're in sort of this situation in 2023, we have to talk about modern performance. And modern performance is important in modern times because, again, we are in this modern period. Once upon a time, we used to get the iPhone 5S. That's not the case now. And modern times brought us things like modern browser APIs because especially the performance types, you know, the browser was very important to us, and some of the performance APIs that have grown to be more substantial and more important with time are also great. Kind of like, you know, the modern platform, which I know you're going to hear about, I think after my talk, my dad, Mademoiselle Sparato, Alexandra, oh, there she is. She's going to talk about the platform and how important it is and how it's modernized. But we're also going to talk today about metrics. Metrics are very important in performance, and obviously we're going to talk about modern metrics, because once upon a time we used to be like, okay, whatever, nav timing API felt like a stopwatch, but the modern metrics that we're using today are very much different than what we were used to once upon a time. So if I told you that sports and, say, the Olympics had a correlation to web performance, would you believe me? But would you believe me now? For some of you who kind of caught that one. Oh, Nafi Tiam is back with us. All right. So one thing about sports and performance, web performance specifically, we do look at metrics. And Nafi Tiam, who's a world-class heptathlete, she also has her own metrics. She runs the 100-meter hurdle, high jump. She does shot put. She runs the 200-meter, the long jump, the javelin, and the javelin throw, and an 800-meter. And those metrics, in the end, culminate in what her goal is, which is a gold medal. In web performance, we have our own set of metrics that we pay attention to. Many, but here are a septet of metrics. Time to first byte, largest contentful paint, total blocking time, cumulative layout shift, speed index, one of my favorite metrics, first input delay, and interaction to next paint. Altogether, those are the metrics that we also work on because we also have our own goals in mind. The gold medal for us is good user experience. That is the prize. Okay? Now, what we love to do also in web performance, we like to look at the web. We take a snapshot of the web all the time to see what's going on. That's how we are informed of the good things, things that could be improved, and things that may not be working the best. So today, we're going to take a look or a snapshot at what's going on the web with a little twist of React. So what we're going to use to look at the web are some amazing repos like the HTTP archive. Is anyone familiar with that? It's fantastic. That is lab data, or, as Carly mentioned, synthetic data. We're also going to look at Chrome User Experience Report via this website right here, which is RUM data. We're also going to use another fantastic repo, which is the RUM archive, which is a HTTP archive-like repo of RUM data by the good people at Akamai. CDN. Some good folks out there. Shout out to Philip. Shout out to Nick Jasma. Go Blue. So let's get rolling. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at Core Web Vitals, again, mentioned by Carly, but I wanted to look at the Core Web Vitals. Why? Because it's something that we're mostly familiar with. This is what is being discussed in performance, and also the SEO folks around the way who are familiar with Core Web Vitals. Do I have any SEO people in the place to be? Yeah, absolutely not. Okay. They didn't come out to React Brussels. You tell them they made a big mistake. So we're going to look at the Core Web Vitals, and we're going to start by sort of listing them out. So the LCP, largest contentful paint, that's how we look at visual completeness, kind of like a UX performance type metric. We're also going to look at the CLS, cumulative layout shift, which is about page stability. You know, when the page is bouncing up and down, you just want it to calm down because you want to click on that button, but you're like, slow down. And we're also going to look at first input delay, FID, which is interactivity, which is where JavaScript comes into play. All right, so let's start. Now let's look at the data, the fun part. Now, we look at the web. This is a snapshot of the web. The web right now, 43% of the millions of websites that we scan have good Core Web Vitals. Now, what does that mean, Henri? That means good LCP, good CLS, and good FID. Now, what does that mean? Well, good LCP means that your hero image or your largest contentful paint was loading in 2.5 seconds or faster. The good CLS means, which is an index, it had a score of 0.1 or lower. And FID means that there was responsive, the site was responsive in 100 milliseconds or faster. So that's what the web is saying right now. Only 43% all have good scores across the three. React sites, however, 33.7%. Okay, not a huge deal, you know, not a big delta between the two, but I'm just painting the picture. This is a snapshot. Let's look at the web. When it comes to good LCP, 58.5%, which is a good score, by the way, because it's been steadily growing. React sites, 47.4% have good LCP. All right. Okay, we're painting the picture. The web, good CLS, 75%. React sites, 70%. All right, we know what to work on. With the web, good FID at 96%. All right, that sounds good. React, 96.5% have good FID. All right. Now, here's one quick issue. For those following Core Web Vitals, first input delay is a metric that seemed like too good to be true because every site was scoring extremely well, getting 90-some%. And, you know, it's kind of like being a teacher, and everyone in your class is getting like 97% on the exam, and you're like, what's going on here? Are they cheating, or this exam not written right? Well, the exam was not written right for FID. So we are it's been updated, and they are essentially striking FID out of the Core Web Vitals next year, and they're introducing interaction to next paint. Why? Because this is, after sort of going through the data, this is more reflective of the user experience. Like, people are spending more time on the site after the first click than expected. So interaction to next paint is what is going to replace FID officially March of next year. So if we look at the web, 78% have good IMP. And this is, again, I should have mentioned this, the interactivity metric, which basically means JavaScript. Now, React sites, however, 48.5% have good IMP, which is drastically different, huge delta, and obviously failing, well, at least below 50% grade. So now, this is the data that I want you to kind of keep in mind, because we're going to talk about this some more. Why? Well, I'd mentioned earlier that the web was being accessed in 2016 for the first time more on mobile than on desktop. And that is absolutely correct to this day, obviously, and will remain so. So we have more mobile users than desktop users. However, mobile metrics fail more than desktop because, again, mobile, desktop, power differences, we mostly know that. But we have to keep these things in mind. When we look at Akamai data from the RUM archive on their networks, we're seeing internet traffic like this. 61% of the traffic is on mobile versus the 33 and change on desktop. Mobile exceeding desktop by 80%. In fact, this is from the HTTP archive, 67% of sites are accessed more on mobile than on desktop. Again, I want developers to keep this in mind because we are essentially shipping products for mobile devices. In fact, the top 1 million through 1,000 sites are being accessed on mobile at a rate of 82% and higher. Okay, this is what the data is showing us. This is a snapshot of the web. And I like to remind everyone in here, there are two mobile users, all right? iPhone users and clowns. Apparently, there are some clowns in here. Maybe not. But this is important, and I'll tell you why. Again, this is a snapshot of the web through the Akamai RUM archive, their networks. 39 or almost 40% mobile, iPhone, and the rest are largely made up of Android devices. And in fact, I was looking at some data yesterday, like, I never knew there were so many Android devices around there, like 2,500 different models. Like, what is going on? Anyhow, why do I mention this? Well, you may not be familiar with this, but there was this library called Device Year Class. Does that ring a bell to anyone? Because do not feel bad if it doesn't. I was nerding out one day and I was kind of shocked. A discovery which was made was the following. 2015 devices were being sold brand new with 2010 technology. All right? So what they had seen was that people were like, hey, I have this new smartphone. It's amazing. It's 2017, whatever it might be. But the engineering inside, the chipset inside was old. So they had this library where you can sort of like make these decisions as to what kind of resources you would send down the wire because the device was likely not ready for something heavy duty. Largely and almost exclusively Android devices. Clowns. So we're talking about this as well because JavaScript. And simply because JavaScript has this level of sort of toxicity if not handled correctly. Any people here familiar with Jamaican food? Yeah, remember Aki? You know, it's not cooked right, you die. Well, JavaScript, you don't handle it properly, your device just... So 1 kilobyte of JavaScript is definitely not equal to 1 kilobyte of images. Largely different. And let's look at some more data. So right now on the web, at the median, all right, at P50, we're shipping about 558 kilobytes of JavaScript. All right? That's at the median. A React site at the median is shipping almost 1,200 kilobytes. All right? And that's actually a September 2023 data point, 12% year-over-year increase, and it's always growing. The top 100, in the top 100 React sites, we are seeing almost 1,500 kilobytes of JavaScript coming down the wire. And that's at the median as well. Something that's very important, again, in the performance space, this thing that we call total blocking time, all right? That's the amount of time that, long definition sort of shortened, the main thread is kind of like unavailable, okay? And why does that matter? Well, total blocking time happens mostly and almost exclusively, but mostly on mobile. You do not have total blocking time issues on desktop like you do on mobile. And in fact, it's 2.5 times to 3.3 times worse on mobile than it would be on desktop. And again, we are in a mobile society right now, so everything that we're deploying is likely being accessed on mobile much more than desktop. So again, these are the kind of points I want everyone to sort of take back with them when they're working on some products. And there's also this thing called rage click that you may or may not have heard of. Anyone has heard of rage click? It's kind of floating around here. These are situations that are coming about mostly because of JavaScript as well. And by definition, it's the amount of time you're hitting a button in succession within a particular area. That is called rage clicking, and it's being monitored and tracked right now by a number of CDNs and certainly some of the premier web performance outlets out there. Because essentially, all the JavaScript that we have that we're sending down the wire and that we're being sort of like liberal with, they're hammering the main thread. They're hammering key metrics that we need to follow, and ultimately they hammer the user experience. So the more JS you send down the pipe, the worse your total blocking time is going to be, and the worse the IMP is going to be. And again, IMP is in this sort of like preparation stage, but is going to be an official Core Web Vital metric in March of next year. So we also, you know, I tend to believe that there aren't really horror stories in web performance. They're just like oversights, right? And there's always an opportunity to improve. And when it comes to React specifically, we take a look at some of the data points. And through BigQuery and Chrome User Experience Report, we can see where some of the opportunities are for us to improve, say, a React site. 4 out of the top 5 opportunities are interactivity related, which means they are JavaScript related. So ultimately, we are saying, like, make sure you monitor what is going on, what you're deploying, what you're sending down the wire. So, solutions. Well, you absolutely have to measure. When I'm running, you cannot improve what you do not measure. I'm a runner. I know what I ran last year. I know what I ran this summer. I know what I want to run next year. I measure my, I keep an eye on my training, basically. And what we do, or what do we use to measure in the performance space? Well, we absolutely use web page test, Premier tool, shout outs to Pat Meenan. We also, Lighthouse is out there, for those familiar. They just released something, I think, version 11.2, like last night, I think. So take a look at that. I love this quote right here. Postal's law, be conservative in what you send. Very important. And it's kind of like from this robustness principle. And my interpretation right here is send resources to machines that conform completely to the specifications. So essentially, make sure you send resources that the devices can handle properly. And here's another fantastic quote. Page performance is now parts proof, perception, and all user experience. A great quote, and it's mine. Just, you could use it if you want, take a picture, whatever. Bottom line is, we want to make sure that we send all the resources that are necessary for users, because no one likes a sad clown. And thank you very much for your time.